NFC Central showdown between the Vikings and the Packers is the talk of the town, and it doesn't matter which town you're talking about.
They haven't been doing too good lately.
Wipe the field with them.
But if you're not up for spending hours of information superhighway in no time flat, the internet has almost 40 highway in no time flat. The internet has almost 40 fan-created websites for Viking and Packer fans in cyberspace. Nearly all the sites contain similar collections of information, images, chat rooms, and message boards. Web-savvy fans can log on to places like PackerPalace.com or VikingsMania.com to chat with other fans, check out new merchandise, or even see how the weather's going to be come game time. There's even a few sites dedicated to trashing the opposite team. But whether clicking your mouse or shouting from the stands, when the players take to the field, fans from both sides of the bridge will be anxiously awaiting the results. Jody Grayson, News 6.
Featured in the same issue with an explicit centerfold of a female boxer, Playboy's interview with Jesse Ventura runs close to 10 pages and covers his opinions on everything from politics to prostitutes to the press. But the comments that are drawing the most fire are the things he said about the military's tailhook incident and his view on organized religion. First, tailhook. The governor told Playboy while he doesn't condone the attacks on women by military officers, he understands how it could happen.
That the governor said, and he said it in the interview, this is not a clarification, this is not an expansion, he said it. He said, I understand how something like this could happen, given the frame of mind of these military men.
On religion, the governor said organized religion is a sham, a crutch for weak-minded people. Woodley says he was talking about the religious right.
What he said was that religion is a sham at times. What it can do, in his experience, is prey on vulnerable people. He stands by that statement.
But he'll take plenty of heat in the meantime. Lawmakers were aghast at the governor's candor. Freshman legislator Ann Lincheski said angry citizens were even calling her.
One of the people who called asked that all the legislators get together and have a resolution saying that the governor shouldn't say things like that.
But Roger Moe had more than a resolution in mind. He thinks Ventura owes this state an apology.
I believe that comments by the governor tarnish and diminish the significant contribution that so many Minnesotans have made and have worked so hard to create an image and an impression that I think is second to none. The governor was quoted as saying, "The best thing is there's no one in the state that can tell me what to do." Governor, every citizen in this state has a right to tell you what to do.
I think the message is ridiculous. I think that we are being laughed at for electing him as governor, and now we're going to be laughed at even more.
Hey, I'm just a steel worker up here in Hibbing, Minnesota, and I think Ventura is right on the head. He's telling it how it is. He doesn't lie. He tells you how he feels. He doesn't hold anything back. That's what you need. I don't agree with some of his issues and statements, but at least he tells you how he feels.
I think his comments about religion disrespected a lot of people, even if they are not religious. And I also feel that as honest as he is, sometimes you shouldn't make comments, even though you feel that that's what you believe in. You should have respect for other people and refrain your comments.
Well, I voted for him before, but I would never vote for him again. I give him credit for being honest, but I believe we need religion in this time very badly.
I feel that Jesse's statements were taken totally out of context, and what he meant to say did not get put on the news. It was just taken out of context for news media. You know, he wasn't portrayed as what he actually said.
All things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. The purple-headed mountain, the river running by, the sunset and the...
I think what this is all about is just recognizing how valuable animals are in our lives and what a powerful influence they are on everyone. And this is our way of recognizing them. Even though we think we might do that every day, we tend to take them for granted. So this is their special day.
When Craig Blacklock looks for his next picture, he's not usually on the path too long. Something catches his eye off in the brush, and he's off, finding another subject to bring to life. Often it's something the rest of the world would pass by, and once he finds an image, it can take as long as an hour before he's ready to trip the shutter on his camera. It's a little more work than the average person is willing to do, and it pays off for him. But you don't have to be a Blacklock to capture some great photos. Craig says the first step is using a tripod.
Having a tripod allows you to do images that you couldn't do without it, and they'll all be sharper than if you were hand holding it.
But for great pictures, you need a great camera, right? Guess again.
You're much better off with a less expensive camera and a good tripod than you are with a very expensive camera hand holding it.
As for selecting what to shoot, Craig says the opportunities are all around us. Just search for a not-so-common viewpoint. Sometimes that means getting right in the thick of things.
We tend to shoot things from 15, 20 feet away, and that's because that's the way we normally see the world. And if you want to have an impact, we want to show people something they don't normally see.
Sometimes it's just a matter of getting up close to something. That's something most of us don't do too often. And when you've found something unique to shoot, consider your light. Bright sun may look beautiful to the eye, but doesn't always help a picture.
I like the more subdued colors here. And particularly on a cloudy day, everything here is very evenly lit and easy to distinguish. I like the repetition of the vertical lines of the aspen and contrasting with the texture down here.
What's caught his eye here are the layers of the image. Bracken and blackberry leaves in the foreground, the aspen trunks in the next layer, topped off by some lightly colored leaves. And finally, a lesson right out of Photography 101. It's called the Rule of Thirds.
If you divide your frame into a tic-tac-toe board with two lines, both vertical and horizontal, you would have your horizon line on the top third or the lower third, and you put your subject matter, your primary subject, on an intersection of one of those lines, so it gets it out of the center and towards one of the corners.
Craig offers one more piece of advice. Some of the best fall pictures are found off the beaten path. Near Moose Lake, Jason Rice, News 6.
In the unsealed documents, Judge Wolf claims Chief Public Defender Fred Friedman made contradictory statements about whether Donald Blom qualified financially for a public defender. He said Friedman testified in court that Blom had no money, but then, while talking with a state lawmaker in the Twin Cities, Wolf said Friedman claimed Blom did have money for private defense. Judge Wolf called that a serious ethical violation. He also claimed it was unethical for Friedman to be talking about the case at all. The documents also explain why Wolf took the lawyers for the public defender's office off the case. He said statements made to the media by Blom's public defender about Blom's choosing to go to prison in North Dakota jeopardized the plea bargain arrangement. All of this will be argued in court this Friday before a Duluth judge. But in the meantime, attorney Anthony Torres has agreed to represent Blom, and he says at this point they're not even talking about a plea bargain.
I have no idea about any matters regarding the plea agreement. I understood that there was some discussions before. However, that's not why I was asked to come in. And whether or not there are any plea agreements, that's a matter that we're not discussing at this point in time.
Something else revealed in the unsealed documents was the fact that if the public defender's office is allowed to continue to represent Blom, they intend to try to have his confession thrown out. In a meeting with Friedman, Judge Wolf asks, is it your opinion that there's any basis to challenge the admissibility of Mr. Blom's statement he gave law enforcement officials on September 8th? That was the day he admitted to killing Katie Poyer and burning her body. Friedman answers that yes, he believes there is a basis to challenge it. It was that answer that caused Judge Wolf to remove the public defenders from the case. Attorney Torres says this whole thing is confusing to him.
I guess if I were to say that I'm not surprised, it would be somewhat disingenuous. I think anyone who's practiced law for any amount of time would know that this is highly unusual, to say the least. And in all the years that I've practiced law, I've never seen anything quite like it.
I am serious. I've seen what's happened. I've seen polls come out that say that I'd win, and that would, obviously before I did it, I'd have to make sure I could win. In fact, the National Enquirer, of all folks, did a poll recently, and they said I'd win the election. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's not true. But, you have the Democrats that are too far left. You have the Republicans that are too far right. And I think I'm somewhere right down the middle. And I just think it's something that we need. We need spirit in this country, and we don't have it.
Yeah, you say this, there is no spirit in America. Why can Donald Trump give spirit to America?
I've just given spirit to everything I've done.
$1.5 million. So the gift that we received today is science students, and to support students doing for a music performance laboratory name, that we will go into design and that we will have design completed.
The chemistry building's the same one I was in 1958 and 59, and I said, isn't it time for the school to have a new chemistry building? And Catherine said, well, yeah, but. And I said, well, let's see if we can do something about that. And so we are. And
okay, thank you. Thank you for your help.
You really have to work in a lab, but it's very difficult to do that during the school year. You do have to concentrate on your classes and whatnot. So,
Fun seemed to be the theme at Pumpkin Fest 99, where you could find anything from face painting to pumpkin soup. But there was more than just great gourds to keep the kids busy, like learning how to get the cider out of an apple, something Pete Stalinsky's been doing now for more than 10 years.
A friend of mine, I used to work at the co-op, and I tried to pawn some of that good fresh Bayfield cider on her, and she said she made her own, so that kind of sparked my interest.
And he's also sparked the interest of a lot of people who enjoy the fruits of his labor.
I know the young kids always say it's like drinking apples, man. This is really good.
Just don't ask him to sell you any.
Don't sell it, Lita, for God's
While
sake.
fresh cider was definitely a bonus, there were much bigger attractions, like a pumpkin painting contest.
I'm painting a spider.
Or just a chance to make new friends.
Well, you know, there's the fresh produce and all that, but there's the camaraderie too. It's the same people, a lot of them come, and we just have a good time down here. Sometimes we have music, sometimes we don't. It's just kind of a fun time. I enjoy it.
In Duluth, Craig Zleeman, News 6.
Have some guts.
Well, you know, there's the fresh produce and all that, but there's the camaraderie too. It's the same people, a lot of them come, and we just have a good time down here. Sometimes we have music, sometimes we don't. It's just kind of a fun time. I enjoy it.
Freshness labels usually state sell by a certain date. This means the retailer should not sell the food item after that time, but frequently its freshness really extends several days beyond that. But even the retailers are having to guess.
Now the makers of a new label called Fresh Check say their label will monitor freshness right on the package. They say the label is time and temperature sensitive.
There's a special ink printed in the center of the bullseye, which is going to gradually and irreversibly change color. If the center becomes darker than the ring, then that tells them that the product is no longer fresh and they shouldn't consume it.
The technology involved in the labels is complicated.
A special polymer in the ink, and it actually goes through the polymerization process as the product ages, as the label ages.
It would help a lot. It would help a whole lot because I would know how long I can keep it in my refrigerator before I'd have to give it to the trash.
Don't expect this type of label to pop up at your supermarket right away. You may recall it took a while before price scanners were accepted.
It was an emotional day for family, friends, and colleagues of the 6th District Judge. Sources close to Carleton County Senior Judge say Wolf collapsed in a state of exhaustion and is now at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. The Minnesota Supreme Court has granted Judge Wolf a medical leave for an undetermined amount of time. Legally, he could take up to a year off. The news of his leave has hit hard many of the people who work with the judge. The mood at the Carleton County Courthouse is somber, with workers choosing not to comment. For months, the judge has been struggling under a heavy load of high-profile cases. Sources tell us he's been working around the clock, and as one friend put it, quote, "The judge is tired and needs some time off." Over the past 5 years, felony cases have jumped a whopping 55% in Carleton County. Over the same period of time, 14 murder defendants have entered the Carleton County court system. Several of those defendants are linked to high-profile cases, including the Paul Antonich murder trials, the Carlos San Miguel murder trial, and most recently, the Katie Poyer kidnap and murder case. Despite the dramatic rise in serious felony cases, the number of judges serving Carleton County has remained steady at 2. Recently, the High Court agreed to bring in another judge to work on a part-time basis to help clear cases, but it appears that help was too late in coming for Judge Wolf.
He's here. I know it because
There she was, sitting up, dressed, and most important, not hooked up to any tubes. Christy Gazzola has a new heart, received it last week at St. Louis Children's Hospital. Her own? Well, Christy Gazzola was born with 7 heart defects, had 10 surgeries to repair them, and for 5 months this year lived at the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit at Children's Hospital, Minneapolis, waiting for a heart transplant.
I was sort of worried that she'll get sicker while she's here, and that we won't have any means to support the heart. And so it was important to get her into a system where she could get a heart sooner.
Amarjit Singh is Christy Gazzola's heart doctor.
Bye.
He sent her to St. Louis, believing she'd get a heart transplant sooner there.
But it seems like we have a tough time getting donors.
A report from Congressman Harry Waxman would reinforce Amarjit Singh's feelings, suggesting that people must wait longer for heart transplants in Minnesota than they do across the country.
But I think the summary as presented on the web page oversimplifies things. And I'm afraid it's almost meant to show disparities that may not be there.
Dr. William Payne is president of the United Network for Organ Sharing, the national organization which tries to assure the right organ gets to the right recipient. He says reports like the Waxman report do more harm than good.
All of the information isn't there, and simplifying it down to top 10 lists, I think, doesn't do a service to the patients who are worried about this or to the public who may be worried about it.
But there's a 13-year-old at St. Louis Children's Hospital who doesn't care about politics. Christy Gazzola knows somebody died, and through a bereaved family's gift, she is alive. And she appreciates that miracle.
I can do pretty much whatever I want.
Schools, well, I think we have some fine magnet schools here in the city that play an important role.
Before that was an effort to try to find other ways of reaching children.
Two have graduated, one from East, one from Central. And
here in the old buildings, and I would like very much to continue.
The national public school system a little bit to the different age, and maybe we need to take a look at that in a little more depth, and also a little of the diversity of the Black culture, the Hispanic culture, the Native American culture, and incorporate some of their
That's what I'm urging you to do.
When Norm Coleman spotted the signs, he should have known this high-rise would be no easy sell. Populated by seniors and other citizens on fixed incomes, they were among the most skeptical audiences he'll encounter.
And you get all the folks riled about what's happening with billionaires. This is about St. Paul.
And no sooner had he finished his well-rehearsed spiel than this group wanted their say.
Now, I read an article which showed that 96% of all the jobs that are created when you have new stadiums are all minimum wage jobs. Therefore, the tax base is only widened by a very minimal amount.
More or less, the Twins want it. We don't want it. If they want it, they raise the money for it, and then they build it.
How much each taxpayer will contribute through tax until the stadium is built, and how much do you expect we have a return?
Only one senior spoke up in agreement with the mayor, saying it was time St. Paul got a turn.
But what do we have? We have the Winter Carnival.
But the mayor won few converts, including a speech pathologist who just visited a client who is unable to afford the medicines she needs.
So you would rather have her pay at least 1 penny or more for millionaires to make money, even though she can't afford her medicine?
You're not listening. You're not listening.
But lots of voters are, and they still don't like what they hear about a deal Coleman now has just 2 weeks and 1 day to sell.
Still smiling. Undaunted.
Two mayoral candidates have a vision for Duluth over the next 4 years, which could change the look of the city. Questions over new development stand out this election season.
Development's been a big issue because there's so much development going on. And that is a great problem for me to have to deal with, is how you do it. If nothing was going on, you wouldn't hear any controversy at all.
But Doty's opponent, City Councilor Greg Gilbert, says the mayor lacks a clear plan for Duluth development.
And as a result, we have this huge divisive arguments over economic development projects, over green spaces, and it just tears our city apart.
Gilbert says he wants to lay out a vision, starting with the bayfront, where he wants some 20 acres to remain as green space.
What I would like to see happen is that that DETA land go back to the city, that it stay permanently and forever as an open space, free from commercial development.
Doty says he wants to keep 9 acres for a top-notch festival park. He's looking to a citizen task force for suggestions on the rest of the land, which could include some retail development.
It needs to be the small theme type of shops. That's what I'm hearing from people in the community, the small theme types of restaurants, just little places where people can stop in. But the main focus still needs to be the waterfront, the Bayfront Festival Park.
The mayor says the Bayfront shows a lot of promise, but the Tech Village is the highlight of his development projects.
There's no question this is going to be a successful venture because of those businesses that have already committed, those that are very close to committing and signing leases, and those that are not, and we're maybe in the early stages, are saying what an exciting concept.
So everyone's connecting correctly.
While one business, Scan Health, has moved into the Tech Village, Gilbert wonders how many others will commit and says he would want more answers as mayor.
To investigate that project, find out what's going on, and let the public know what's going on. Because clearly the project's not going as planned.
Gilbert also says he disagrees with the handling of the Opus project near the Miller Hill Mall. He says residents were ignored during the planning process. Construction started even though the Opus referendum failed in 1996.
In spite of that, the city still went around our back and came up with a way that we could go ahead with the project. And so they say, well, why should I even get involved anymore?
But Doty says the developers simply came up with a new plan that went through the same approval process.
And they came in, they fit under that community unit plan, they went through the process, it passed, and they're going to build up there. Actually, what that has done is it has saved wetlands, it has saved green space.
Both candidates say developments are essential to bring new jobs to town. Jobs that can help families continue to call Duluth home. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
Well, it's disappointing that somebody would be that way to try to drag a campaign down into the depths that they have with putting together, going to all that trouble to, put together some phony letterhead and put some things together that there's absolutely a fabrication.
The typed return address claimed the news release came from the mayor's campaign volunteer office. The writer worked to make it look very similar to releases that are delivered to newsrooms every day. But some details showed that it didn't come from the mayor's supporters.
It's a sticker. We have a sticker that you put on your lapel. It's kind of just like a button, except it's the sticky kind that you stick on. We have thousands of them.
Details such as the letterhead that actually came from a campaign sticker. The mayor says he didn't see anything like this in his previous mayoral elections.
I have no idea. I have no idea who would do something like this. It's somebody who certainly doesn't have any respect for the political process and for people in general.
The letter mentions Doty's wife and says he admits to a conflict of interest.
Campaigns are hard enough as it is without families being dragged in. As I said, we've kept our campaign on a high level, and I hope that I hope this isn't a sign of things to come in the next few days.
No, I am talking. Excuse me, Mayor, I have the floor.
We are not going to
Excuse me, Mayor, I have the floor.
This meeting started out with tension and ended with the mayor ordering her staff to walk out.
Let's leave. This is ridiculous. Jack, I'm sorry. We're not going anywhere with the lease. I'd like to discuss the lease. We obviously can't.
You're just unclear unless you directed me to leave.
I direct all staff to leave.
The tension began earlier when a city council committee asked Superior's longtime finance director to provide information as they looked into the lease renewal for the operator of Barker's Island Marina.
You evidently have not read my letter, which is...
I've read your letter.
No, you haven't. Would you let me finish, Dick?
Sure.
Committee members said a lack of cooperation from city department heads left them unable to make an educated decision on the lease.
We have been presented garbage by our own city treasurer to the extent that it raises suspicion within this councilor's mind as to the state of the finances of the city.
The lack of data raised questions in some councilors' minds about other city leases. They conducted an investigation and found a serious shortage of available information.
There's no record of when those leases were negotiated, the terms of the lease, when they're going to be renewed, et cetera, et cetera.
But when councilors raised these questions with the mayor, she called it a personal attack.
The problem with this whole administration is that when it is challenged, it then presumes that it is a personal attack. We have not had cooperation from your administration, and in many cases yourself, Mayor.
Several councilors feel the unwillingness or inability of city officials to provide crucial information on the marina prevented them from getting the best deal for taxpayers.
They threw a temper tantrum and walked out.
But tensions were building long before the lease negotiations. Earlier this year, the council hired a private attorney to investigate potential illegal behavior when the city attorney and finance director took it on themselves to write off several $1,000s in back taxes owed by Lake Superior Laundry.
I think everyone recognized it was handled inappropriately, and of course hindsight tells us a lot.
The legal opinion included some harsh criticism of the city attorney and finance director, suggesting they overstepped the bounds of their authority. The attorney recommended counseling to resolve the ongoing power struggle.
It is the city council that runs the city, and it is not the city treasurer under his own autonomy, nor is it the city attorney.
You can make any opinion and judgments about me that you want, but we're still here to do a job for the city of Superior.
One longtime council watcher and city government expert feels the job would be better done if people showed each other more respect and remembered their roles.
Mr. Nelson has ridden high, wide, and handsome over the citizenry of the city for a long time. And if you watch the city council meetings, he bullies the elected councilors. Verbally and stylistically, he's in charge. But he was never elected to that position.
Mayor Saccone agrees bullying, name-calling, and backstabbing has gotten out of control and fears it's now damaging city business.
If it goes on unchecked, can it actually hurt the workings of the city, the day-to-day?
I think it already has.
In Superior, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Unfortunate type of, I mean, the man is obviously very ill, and to think he could be getting off on a technicality.
Right now it's come down to two alternatives for cleaning it up. One, which would involve dredging and moving the pollutants out of the bay, is favored by the state. And the other one, considerably cheaper, is favored by the corporations who have to pay for it.
Looking out over the deck of Ann Williams' home, this seems to be a prime area to live. On the water with abundant wildlife right out your back door. But look closer, and you'll find Stryker Bay is polluted with polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, cancer-causing compounds from coal, oil, and gas plants that operated in the area from the 1800s to the 1960s.
There's some cancer-causing chemicals involved in this process, and there have been for 40 years.
So we would like to see the area be cleaned up and returned to its pristine state if that's at all possible.
The Pollution Control Agency wants Stryker Bay and a nearby dock dredged, with the polluted material permanently sealed in a current slip, which would force Hallett Docks to relocate. But one of the companies responsible for the pollution, Interlake, and other residents in West Duluth oppose the dredging, saying it will harm the water and its inhabitants and will create an unbearable stench for possibly years. They prefer creating a permanent cap of the area, filling it with soil and sediment, and creating a wetlands area. The capping plan has got the support of the West Duluth Neighborhood Coalition, but not residents who live on Stryker Bay. Residents who could lose their access to the water if the bay is filled in.
Well, I just think that since companies have polluted the area, they need to get rid of it so that future generations, it's not here. Just capping it seems like such a temporary thing, and who knows, 50 years down the road, I could have great-grandchildren and come here, and we'd like to go in the water and not have to worry.
Depending on the method of cleanup and who you ask, the cost ranges from $20 million to $60 million and could take 4 to 13 years to complete.
No one is going to get everything they want. Some people will have to compromise. I think most people will probably have to compromise. But the net environmental benefit will be the returning of this area back to a more healthy environmental state.
In West Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
You gonna get on the tractor? Yeah. Go get a pumpkin. We're gonna go to a corn maze. You know what's on the other end of the corn maze? A big old pumpkin! Here we go! Come on, champ. Let's go find a pumpkin. What do you think of that one? Too small? You want this one? Okay.
Oh, thank you. I want a pumpkin.
A circle around it. Grab some of them seeds. Daddy does it, see? You do that now. How's that, huh?
Pumpkin.
Oh, perfect.
He's been fixing things since he was 9 years old.
If you want to take the time and do it, and it's very enjoyable to bring an old piece of equipment back to life.
In the military, Jerry Patton got into photography for a hobby. Now it's consumed his life and his house. Big cameras, small cameras, broken cameras, and lenses. He figures there's about 1,000 in the house.
And that's only half of what I have in the garage, much less the basement.
And most of them are broken.
Beyond repair.
His fix-it career with cameras began by breaking his own. His friend ran it over with a truck.
Oh, I said, oh hell. I repaired things in worse shape than this before.
Now he fixes about 8 cameras a day, old and new.
I can waste a lot of time finding out that the camera should never been built in the first place. It was so horribly engineered.
He works all odd hours with strange tools and tiny parts, but he seems to greet each broken machine with a sense of humor. His workshop may look a little scattered, but it's really a system that works for him.
Yes, of course, it works for me.
Jerry Patton is proof that you can still find service with a smile.
The camera is yours, it's repaired.
In Duluth, Jason Rice, News 6.
The last thing on a hunter's mind before the big hunt is getting hurt on the stand. But if you haven't done any preseason inspections of your equipment, you could actually be in more danger than the deer.
Well, when somebody builds a permanent deer stand, it obviously changes year to year, and if people don't check them before the year starts and just kind of get up their opening day or try to get up their opening day, they could be in for a surprise. Because one of the problems with tree stands like this, permanent type ones, is the moving of the trees in the wind. It can loosen nails, especially if you use nails and not screws. It could loosen them to the point where they're ready to fall out, and when you get up in a stand like that, there's a good chance you could fall down.
In fact, just 2 months ago, there was a bear hunter killed and her husband was badly injured when their tree stand collapsed right underneath them. It was a feeling John Chalstrom knows painfully well.
It was about 5 years ago on an opening morning when I was climbing into my tree stand, and I got right up into my stand and it came down with me. There was some branches I grabbed on the way down, and I didn't have any serious injuries, but a lot of people get hurt every year.
Research shows that about 1/3 of all hunters who use tree stands are going to fall out of them at some point in time. In fact, in the last 5 years in Minnesota alone, 6 people have died in tree stands and another 31 people were crippled by permanent neck and spine injuries. But there is something you can do to keep yourself safe even if you should slip. Safety straps attach right to the tree, and they're made so that they'll catch you should you or your tree stand fall.
The one strap belt is what most people use, and some problems with that is it could restrict your breathing. The other type is the full body harness type strap, which distributes your weight, and it wouldn't put it all on your chest if the strap happens to be around your chest or something and you're hanging there.
The DNR says common sense is still your best defense when you're in the woods. And if a situation looks unsafe, it probably is. In Duluth, Craig Sleeman, News 6.
Jim, come. That's a good boy.
Nancy Nelson enjoys walking through the woods with her dog, Jim. But the tall trees and wetlands she's trudging through near Spirit Mountain might not be around for long. Developers say they want to bring an economic boost to the area with a golf course and lodge.
Once it's a golf course, I can't just come out here and take a walk on their golf course.
Nelson says she wants to protect the northern hardwood forests that are unique in this area.
It's just criminal to cut it down for a golf course which could be put anywhere. Once you cut this forest down, it's gone forever. It's never going to come back. And
in a just-released report on the project's environmental impact, an expert noted a rare number of yellow birch trees, like this one, and said some areas may be considered old-growth forests by the DNR. But a map shows fairways cutting through some of these areas.
Hole number 12 goes right through it. Hole number 14 goes through it.
Yet the report concludes The removal of trees of significant age and size is minimized, if not avoided, in this plan. But that's not enough for Nelson.
You're going to have mowed Kentucky bluegrass with a few big trees left around the edges, and that is not a forest. So they might save some of the biggest trees, but they're going to destroy the forest.
The area is also covered in wetlands.
And see lots of little wetlands everywhere.
According to the report, water quality and wetland conservation are an integral part of the project, and it says the development would not affect any spiritual sites for Native Americans. Nelson says the report is thorough and says it shows how significant she thinks the forest is. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
A crowd of Doty supporters gathered at the Holiday Center. It's work for months on a long re-election campaign almost done.
But
almost.
Ongoing. I'm working on about 3 hours sleep tonight or today, and I'll probably, if I'm lucky, I'll get that tonight. But when it's all is said and done, it'll be over, and whatever God has in mind, I'm going to take.
I'm calling to ask you to be sure to vote for the mayor now come Tuesday at Election Day.
I would call it controlled chaos.
Campaign manager Kay Biga says she doesn't mind the long hours. But after months of working the phones and handing out literature, other things have been put on the back burner.
Wednesday, I'm planning to clean my house. Okay. Actually.
Meantime, the Greg Gilbert headquarters is packed with volunteers of all types.
Your name's on the good list, the support list.
Mother Gilbert and 8-year-old Annika calling voters.
I'm calling to remind you that tomorrow is the election.
Volunteers are working the phones and resting their feet after a multi-day campaign walk across the length of the city. Barb Olson says she'll miss the camaraderie of the election volunteers.
We've walked together, we've dropped literature together.
And Greg Gilbert says, sore feet or not, the momentum is not stopping.
We're going to get out and be shaking hands and just working as hard as we can until, kind of the gong sounds at the ending date, which is 8 o'clock on Tuesday.
And then are you going to collapse for a few minutes?
I will probably collapse for a very long time.
And Duluth voters can most likely expect a few phone calls from both camps. Volunteers will be calling prospective voters up until the polls close. In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
For decades, football players from all over the Northland have been tearing up the turf at Public School Stadium. And according to Denfeld principal Bill Westholm, not much has changed since the days when he played back in the 60s.
I remember it well, and it doesn't look much different now than it did back then.
Ever since it was built in the late 1930s, more than 2,000 football games have been played at PSS. But 60 years of tackles and touchdowns has taken a toll on the field.
It's held up pretty well, but if you went out to look at it, it's taken far more wear than it should, and it makes it awfully hard to get it ready for the next year when you're just pounding the turf the way we pound it.
District officials say both PSS and Ordine Stadium need major improvements.
We really don't have locker room facilities, we don't have concession areas, we don't have washroom areas for the public that are any good to speak of. And so all of that will be incorporated into it also.
So far, Bill says he isn't aware of any organized opposition to the athletic facilities referendum, making supporters hopeful of a win.
We think it's a pretty cost-effective plan, and it'll really take us into the next century. And so we're not talking about a 4 or 5 year cure here. We're talking about something that hopefully is going to take us well into the next century and serve students well after I'm retired from this spot.
In Duluth, Jody Grayson, News 6.
Oh boy, that's cute. Okay, Mom. You have. Yeah. Nope. Erase it. Don't have to put it right in that box. Can you see up there?
Careful. It's going. There. Now we have some stickers for you.
Ooh.
We're going to charge on. I want my last 4 years to be the hallmark of my administration. People will forget what I did in the first 8. They want to know what I'm going to do in the next 4, and that's where we're headed.
So is this your last term?
This is my last term. There's no question about it. I made a promise to this wonderful woman next to me, and we're going to get done what we need to get done in the next 4, and then maybe Marcia Doty for mayor, huh?
Oh, no.
Mark and Michelle, jurors deliberated for less than an hour before they decided that Donald Blum is guilty of possessing firearms as a convicted felon. Blum will serve at least 15 years for the crime, and he could get up to life in prison. One juror said it wasn't too difficult to come back with a guilty verdict in that short period of time because he says the evidence against Blum was fairly overwhelming. Over the course of the trial, the prosecutor called several witnesses who say they saw Blum carrying or shooting the guns that investigators found on his property near Moose Lake. Blum's lawyer says many of those witnesses were either mistaken or lying. Blum decided not to take the stand today in his own defense. But jurors said there was enough evidence to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that was good news for the family of Katie Poyer. They say they're happy that the man who once confessed to her murder will be behind bars.
This is the greatest day we've had since May 26th. Seems like everything been against us. This is one of our highs.
But Blum's family says all of the publicity over the state charges prevented him from getting a fair trial. They say he was pressured into that confession.
I just don't believe he got a fair trial because of this right here.
As far as what I got from him, from his letters, from family members who've been up here, he's been under a lot of stress. He's been in a lot of pain due to cancer.
Of course, prosecutors say that they are pleased with the guilty verdict, and Blum's lawyer says he's disappointed but not surprised. Blum has asked to remain in the Anoka County Jail, and sentencing is set for January of next year. In the meantime, a pre-sentence investigative report will be compiled. That helps the judge decide what that sentence could be. But again, Blum could be in jail for the rest of his life. Mark and Michelle.
Okay. If you really need sweaters for children and grown-ups, Fine Mayor Saccone actually donated a City of Superior sweatshirt.
And that's very true that we need all sizes.
We have a lot of people that come in for assistance. Some of them are barely dressed in a jacket or just regular clothing, even when it's very cold outside. And the sweaters that we offer, people are able to just come in and take.
Or anything else. Each one of us has something of value to offer this world. I thank you for what you mean to all your neighbors and to all of
Doing good, no problem.
The intent of a disability hunting permit is to allow sportsmen like David Henry to enjoy the thrill of the hunt. He applied for a special permit today after hurting his back.
It's a good idea, I guess.
Okay.
If you're handicapped and like that.
But in the 5 years since disabled hunting permits have allowed hunters to not only shoot from a vehicle, but to also take deer of either sex, the State Department of Natural Resources says the number of applications for a disabled license have skyrocketed from 500 a year to more than 4,000, leading the state to suspect abuse.
When people see the cheating and the abuses, they kind of lose faith in the system, and I think, you know, we risk losing, you know, this benefit for everybody, including the disabled hunters.
The problem, according to the DNR, is in the wording of the application, which includes heart and back problems or any other medically certified condition as qualifying for a permit. Vague language the DNR wants to change.
For example, it might actually define the range of motion in a limb, and it would be, you know, better guidance for the doctor to determine, does this person in fact qualify for this permit.
To just carte blanche say that they should tighten them up, I would probably be adamantly opposed to that.
Clell Hemphill is executive director of the Minnesota State Council on Disability.
We look at it as anything that I can do to enhance the independentness and or the livelihood of persons with disabilities is a thing that our department should do. And
Hey, that's great.
So,
Oh, that's real interesting.
and all the equipment, I'm telling you. So as like Tom said, the snow helps people find their own way back out in their own tracks lots of times. What happens on days like today is that it's so nice, you actually start to daydream a little, and you just keep wandering deeper and deeper into the woods, and that's what makes it more difficult because they go much deeper in.
It's really important when they do wound a deer and they're going after it, that they do take a compass reading from the point that they last saw the deer.
Yes, we know it's not even Thanksgiving and already Christmas decorations are out.
I hope it snows on Christmas Day.
Believe it or not, people are buying holiday decorations already, and that has stores like Target needing to hire seasonal workers.
It's almost like a little mini mass hire for us. We've, in the last month, we've added on 85 people, and we'll probably be adding on another 20. So we'll be adding on over 100 people just for the Christmas season.
If you can afford that price range, that's the best bet.
And Target's not the only one planning ahead.
You guys are all set.
Electronics superstore Best Buy has already hired 60 workers. And bookstore Barnes & Noble is stocking up its staff along with its shelves. Store manager Katie McCarty says that the number of seasonal workers applying for jobs has been going down in the past couple of years.
We are still finding very qualified people, and in fact some of our best customers come in and they are our holiday help, and that's a wonderful thing. They're already familiar with the store. They come to the store because they love it, and now they have an opportunity to work in it, which is a great thing.
Store managers say sometimes it's hard to find people willing to work day hours or weekends, but preparing early for the holiday by hiring in advance has paid off for many retailers, knowing customers will be shopping for everything from lights to bells.
Take your bell. No? Brandon, you wanna?
And need help finding the perfect holiday item.
Well, I'm not going to buy these because half of them I can't use.
Okay.
And ultimately need help with returns. In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
Just kidding, so funny.
Fozzie was a very popular bear, probably weighed between 12 and 1,500 pounds, and the children in particularly enjoyed him because he'd get up right up to the glass and snuff at them and roar at them and things like this. So Fozzie will be missed.
This is how the Northland looked a year ago. Snowplows barreling through the darkness and tires spinning in the freshly fallen snow. Quite a difference from tonight's balmy conditions, where college students hang out in shorts and sandals and hover around glowing coals after a just finished dinner on the grill.
Oh, it was a beautiful day, and we just decided to grill, and it's very nice.
Usually it's pretty cold here right now, and right now it's about as nice as it gets out here. It's like one of the nicest days we've had since we moved out here. Like the past 2 months, it's been freezing every day.
So with weather as nice as it was, Northlanders decided to get serious about having some fun.
Came up here for the skiing and the snowboarding and ended up wearing beach clothes, you know?
Folks enjoyed the outdoors, even when they daydreamed about other places to spend their time.
I'd rather be out of my deer stand, but gotta make money.
While it felt like time to play around, it's also time to get ready for cooler days. Carpenters took advantage of the warmth to finish winterizing a few more homes.
Winter is coming, it's inevitable. Every day like this helps though, because it does reduce your heating costs for the season, but by the same token you have to get it done because we know sooner or later we're going to hit the 20-30 below.
And these unseasonably warm days will be just a memory. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6. That made the whole. I've had another reporter here during the day, and so what was it that
Well,
actually
he gave a
broke down
statement that David was the shooter, and then he just
The state's had a chance to present their evidence. May not have been the strongest case in the world, but it was a darn good case. And if they've got their attitude up where it was early on, that they might think again.